Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei got harem with Rias, Issei, Gabriel and Serafall. Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The girls woke up to the smell of breakfast Issei and Middle put on some shirts that belonged to Issei, both noticing that their panties were slightly showing. Middle didn't mind, but Issei was blushing. Middle went downstairs while Issei stayed to pray. Alwarner and Rainer had the same problem, but their panties were fully seen, and they paid no mind to it being fallen. It didn't bother them much. As they reached downstairs they saw Issei setting the table. Even though they wanted to help, he just told them to sit and relax, but as when he saw Issei fidgeting in her seat, he had to say something. "Issei, what's wrong? You can tell me anything," he asked. "It's just that I never wore just a shirt and panties in front of a boy before," she said while blushing. Issei finally caught what she meant and tried to calm her down. "I'm sorry for making you feel uncomfortable. How about after breakfast, I'll give you girls my credit card and you all can go shopping for new clothes and whatever items you might need." All the girls smiled at his gesture and ate their breakfast while having mundane conversations. The main topic Issei brought up was about remodeling the house so they can have their own rooms. He knew he had to talk to his parents about this. As the girls were leaving for the shopping stores to buy what they needed, Rainer changed into her uniform. After a few minutes of Issei was alone, he decided to call his parents to tell them his plans. "Issei, is that you? Is something wrong?" his mother asked on the other end of the line. "No, nothing's wrong. I just need to tell you guys something and ask for your permission for something else." "Alright, I'll put you on speaker so your father can hear as well." "Well, I found 4 girls who were kidnapped and mistreated by some weird guys, and I told them they can stay with us." He knew this lie was necessary, so his parents never find out about the supernatural world. "And I was thinking of renovating the house so they can have their own rooms." Issei waited patiently for his parents to respond. "Issei, are you following my dream and starting a harem?" his father asked and received a slap from his wife. "Dear Issei, isn't like that, and don't have perverted thoughts like you," his mother berated his father. "Issei, are you sure it's safe and these girls aren't in league with the kidnappers and trying to trick you?" his mother asked in a worried tone. She's always been protective of him, thinking every girl he talks to is trying to fool him or trick him. The only girl she liked was his childhood friend Irina. "I'm positive that they're not trying anything," he assured her. "Well, I know you won't do anything indecent to them, and I trust your word if you say so, and it's okay with me if you remodel the house." And your father just nodded, giving his approval as well. "Just send me a picture of the new house when it's done." In a warm tone she gave him the okay. "Thank you both for your trust in me, and we'll be staying at a hotel until the renovation is finished. Enjoy the rest of your vacation," Issei told them before hanging up. It's been over 3 hours since the girls left to buy what they needed and had just returned. They all bought similar hygienic materials for daily use, but their clothes were totally different. Middle bought different styles and colors of gothic clothing. Alwarner bought different business dress shirts and skirts. Issei bought mostly one-piece dresses of different colors. And Rainer bought clothes for both her forms. With was a lot of different t-shirts and jeans with a few dresses and miniskirts. The girls all glumped on Issei and thanked him for all he has done for them. He patted each of them on their heads and smiled, telling them it was his pleasure. Issei was about to leave for the supermarket to buy ingredients for the dinner later that night when Rainer insisted on going with him. The walk was quiet until Issei spoke up. "Is there something weighing on your mind? I can see the worry in your eyes," he told her as they walked. She stopped a few steps behind him and started talking with tears in her eyes. "I know you didn't have to save us after I stabbed you and left you for dead. You could have taken Issei and leave us, but you came back for me and also my 2 friends." She started wiping the tears from her eyes. "We were betrayed and beaten by our own kind, and it wasn't our leader who sent help or saved us. It was you, someone who could have held a grudge at all fallen angels and let us be, but you." Before she finished, Issei held her in a warm embrace before speaking. "When we went on our date I saw how troubled you were and I heard what you said. I know you didn't want to do it and I forgive you. I hold no hatred against you. And I promise I'll help you and the others find the one who did that to you and make sure he pays." Held her for a few minutes until she felt better and continued on while she was holding onto his arm with a smile on her face. Sona wanted to bring more of her peerage other than just her queen. She wasn't sure of meeting Issei without a backup plan, but trusted Rias when she told her that he wasn't a threat to them. Sona didn't like the fact that Issei somehow got a hold of evil pieces and now started his own peerage without going through the proper channels. As they stood outside his home, she felt not only Issei's aura, but 4 other auras that told her these were the ones he reincarnated into devils, and just stood there as Rias went up to ring the doorbell. Issei and Middle just finished placing the plates on the dining table before calling all the girls together as he felt the 4 auras outside his home. "Alright, while we're eating and meeting the other devils, I'd like you all to hide your angel wings. They don't know I'm part angel, and I'm not ready to reveal that to anyone just yet. If they want to see your wing, just your devil and dragon wings." After he said that, they all heard the doorbell ring and Kalwerner went to greet their guests for dinner. Rias thought it would be Issei to greet them at the door, but was surprised when a tall woman opened the door and greeted them. "Welcome Lady Rias, Lady Sona, and their Queen's Master Ice has been expecting you," she said with a bow and led them to the dining room. The table was lightly decorated with a small floral arrangement that didn't block anyone's view of each other. With two small baskets of croissants close to the ends on opposite sides of the table. As they sat down, Issei served them avocado-flavored paella. In the middle of dinner, Sona was the first to speak up, as she was curious how Issei got a hold of evil pieces. "So Ice, how did you acquire your evil pieces, if you don't mind me asking?" "I found them in the abandoned church where I rescued these three who were held captive and beaten to near death by the same fallen angel that attacked me last week," he said, while pointing to the three fallen female. "Yes, I saved us from our own kind who betrayed us, and he is now our master," Rainer told her with a smile on her face. "So you three were fallen before and chose to become part devil?" Akeno asked in shock. "Well Akeno, I also had a little help from my uncle to give them more like me," Issei said as he drank some water. "I'd like to know what you really are if you don't mind me asking," Sona said with a stern look on her face. "Sure, I'm part dragon part devil," he told her. "And I'm guessing this uncle of yours helped make them also part dragon. Who is you uncle, we'd like to know?" Rias asked. His four housemates looked at him wondering if he'll tell them, but he just waved his hand in front of his face and replied, "I'm sorry, but he wants his identity to be kept a secret as long as possible, but I'll tell you he's not any dragon in the underworld." Rias and Sona was unsatisfied with that answer, but knew they wouldn't get answer even if they pressed the issue. "Well, you know, we have to report this incident along with a report about Diodora Astereth to the underworld," Sona told him. "I understand you have your responsibilities to attend to." As they finished eating dinner, they were currently sitting in the living room drinking tea. "So Issei, I doubt that you only invited us for dinner to talk about how you acquired a peerage," Rias said in a taunting manner. "You're correct, I was wondering if there was a way for the four of them to attend school with me," he asked her. She looked at Sona, who just nodded at her before replying. "Yes, we can arrange that. What years will they be in?" "Well, Middle can be in first year, and Asia and Rainer will be in second year with me. As for Kalwerner, I was thinking she can be a teacher if that's possible," he asked of them. "Yes, that is possible, we'll just require their information and any alias they'll be using," Sona answered. "Thank you both, if I can do anything to repay the both of you back just let me know," he said as he bowed to both of them, prompting the other girls to bow, showing their thanks as well. "Now that's taken care of, I'll have to find someone to renovate this house and get a hotel room." Upon hearing this, Ria's face lit up. "I can help with that. We devils can renovate this house overnight," she told him. He looked at her surprised. "They can do something like that? Okay, we can talk about the details of that tomorrow in the clubroom. For now let's talk about their application," he said after taking a sip of his tea. "Middle, do you have an alias you use in the human world?" Issei asked her. "No, I do not. This was to be my first mission," she replied. "Well, since you have blonde hair, how about using Asia's last name and say your sister's?" "I don't mind, I always wanted a sister," Asia exclaimed. "I have no objections to the idea," Middle told them with a smile. "Perfect, then from now on your name is Middle Argento," Issei told her. "Rainer, do you still want to be called Uma Mano, or do you want to change it?" "I'll keep it, it was that name that led me to this new life," she replied. "What about you, Kalwerner?" he asked the oldest of them all. "Well, mine is a bit unoriginal, it's Kala Warner," she told them, blushing while looking at the ground. Issei then turned to Sona. "Alright, there you have it, the aliases they'll be using from now on. I hope we all can get along," Issei told them. "Great, I'll ask that all of you also join the Occult Research Club, and Kalwerner can be the club's advisor," Rias told them. Issei agreed with her, and then she left his house along with Akeno, Sona and Tsubaki. As we're walking outside, Sona turned and talked to Rias. "I have a feeling he's hiding something other than the identity of his uncle from us," she told Rias. "He might, but he must have his reasons. Also, he's part dragon, and we know they're not that trusting of others," she replied. Issei was now sitting and watching the TV with the girls before he spoke up. "They'll either send the information for girls tomorrow, or they'll give them to me when I meet them at school tomorrow," he told them. "But what are you gonna do about remodeling the house?" Rainer asked him. He sat there and thought for a few seconds before giving an answer. "For the renovation, I might have to buy the neighbors' homes from them. We might need the extra space. I'll talk to Rias about that tomorrow," he replied to her. They looked at him with nothing to say until Kalwerner spoke up. "Ice, how wealthy is your family?" she asked him. "Me and my father has been investing in successful companies since I was 10, so we amassed a small fortune," he told them. They were surprised because they know when most people become wealthy, they spend their money on extravagant cars and houses, but Issei and his family lived in the same 2-story 3-bedroom house. Next day. Issei was sitting in the Orc clubroom during lunch using his smartphone to make a few investments before talking to Rias. "So I plan to buy the land my neighbors owns for the renovation," he told her. "Ice, how big of a renovation would you like?" she said with a devious smile. 6 stories with 3 underground floors. I can understand the 6 stories, but why do you need underground floors, she asked inquisitively. Those will be used for a training room, a large indoor bath, a movie theater, and the other 2 can be an indoor pool and a library and storehouse, he told her. Well, my father does construction in the human world, so I'll let him know about this, and you'll wake up tomorrow in your new house, she told him. Okay, that's great, I know my parents will like it as well, so what would you like for payment? He looked at Rias waiting for an answer. I can't think of anything at this moment, but as soon as I do I'll let you know. After they finished, Issei went back to his classes thinking of how he might find a way to repay her himself, but drew a blank. Issei entered the clubroom after school and Sona and Tsubaki there as well. Kaichu, it's nice to see you again, and you as well, Fukakeichu, he greeted them. I assume you're here to tell me about the girls' entrance into the school, he asked. Yes, I am. Yuma Amano and Asia Argento will be in your class, while Middle will be in the same class as Rias Rook Kaneko Taoju, and as for Kala Warner, she'll be the school nurse, and the club advisor, Tsubaki told him, while handing him folders with their classes schedule. Thank you for all your hard work, Issei bowed while thanking them. Don't mention it, and as for payment I'll call upon you 4 times if I need of your assistance in any matter. Is this acceptable, Sona asked him. Yes, that is acceptable, he told her. And we have sent uniforms for the 3 girls to your house earlier, I'm sure they'll be happy to model them for you, Sona told him. Issei smiled at her and watched as both her and Tsubaki leave the clubroom. He then turned to Rias and told her that he'll be leaving early. When Issei arrived at his house, he noticed the neighbors that lived to his left and right were moving away. He talked to them and they told him that someone bought their homes and gave them new land to build new houses at. Issei smiled while thinking that devils sure work fast. When he entered his house, Rainer, Middleton, Asia were wearing the girls' uniform, which consisted of a white long-sleeved button-down shirt with vertical linings, a black ribbon on the collar, a black shoulder cape and matching button-down corset, and a magenta skirt with white accents. Issei looked at them and smiled. You all look very lovely in your uniforms, he told them. That night while Issei was laying on the couch, he felt his surroundings change around him and saw that it was his furnitures and were changing as well. It was as if his old furniture were teleporting out and new ones was teleporting in, and the walls and size of the house was also changing. The whole procedure took a few minutes after it was done, and Issei just talked to himself. When she said overnight, she wasn't kidding. He then proceeded to walk around his newly renovated house. On the first floor are the guest rooms, living room, kitchen, and Japanese-style rooms. On the second floor are the rooms of Issei, Middleton, Asia, who were still asleep, sharing the same room at this time, with Issei's room facing theirs and 2 other rooms next to his. My room seems to be more than 4 times bigger than before, he told himself as he watched Kalwarner and Rainer still asleep, unaware of the changes. There was a huge television I'd never seen before in the living room, also a chandelier on the ceiling. His parents' room was on the 3rd floor, a study and the storeroom. There were 4 more rooms on the 4th floor. The 5th and 6th floors are entirely made of just vacant rooms. I'll use them as guest rooms for now and for my peerage later. There is also an open-air garden on the roof. I know my parents will love that. I then proceeded to the elevator and went to the underground floors. The first underground floor is the training room and movie theater. It's also equipped with a large indoor bath. The second underground floor is used entirely for an indoor pool that can also use warm water. In the 3rd underground floor are a library and a storehouse. I'm just glad there's an elevator and she followed my plans, but some reason I think she had something else in mind when it came to my room, he mused to himself. After walking around the house, he decided to sleep in one of the empty rooms next to his room. Issei was the first to wake up the next morning and went to the new kitchen to make breakfast. After he finished, he went back upstairs to wake up the girls. They were all surprised at the sudden changes of the house, and Issei just smiled at the expression on their faces. As they ate breakfast, he asked them what rooms they would like, but the ones on the 3rd floor were for his parents. Asia wanted to stay in the room next to his. Middle took the room across from Issei's Kalwarner, and Rainer took rooms on the 4th floor. After breakfast, they all prepared to go to school. As they walked to school, everyone was looking at 3 beauties walking with Issei. Kalwarner left early so she can meet and greet the faculty. Asia was asking Issei about school life, this being her first time, and as they were walking and smiling, the students were glaring at them, the boys glaring at Issei, and the girls looking on with jealousy. They watched 4 new girls walking with the gentleman prince of Kao Academy. Issei led them to the faculty room so their teachers can introduce them to their classes. When Issei arrived at his desk, he was assaulted by the perverted duo. Why can't you just leave this school so we can have the girls to ourselves? Motohama sneered. First you get all the girls in the orc, and now you got 3 beauties before we get a chance, Mitsuda said as he adjusted his glasses. Issei stood up and held both of them by the collar before speaking up. Those girls are friends of mine, and if I hear you guys peeping on them, I'll call the police and have both of you arrested with sexual harassment and conspiracy to commit rape. This shocked everyone, especially the girls, for not thinking of doing something like that earlier. A few minutes later, the teacher entered the class. Now everyone, before we start the class we have two new students, in and introduce yourselves. After the teacher said that, one blonde girl and a long black hair entered and introduced themselves to the class. "Hi, I'm Asia Argento, please take care of me," she said with a bow and a smile. The girls looked at her innocence and wanted to protect her from the boys. And before the boys looked at her, they looked at Issei and saw his eyes waiting for one of them to say something that will allow him to attack the perpetrator. "Hello, my name is Yuma Amano, nice to meet you," she said with a bow. "Alright Amano, you can sit next to Issei. Argento, you can sit behind Amano," the teacher told them, and with that they went on with their classes. During the break, the female students started asking the two new female students random questions. Rainer knew how to avoid those questions to avoid misunderstanding, but Asia was oblivious to their intent. "So how do you girls know Hyudu?" one student asked. "He helped us out from some bad people and let us live with him," Asia answered. "So is it just the two of you or the other girl we saw you walking with today?" another asked. "She's my little sister, we all live with Ice." "Have you walked in on Hyudu in the bath yet?" a girl with twin braided brown hair wearing glasses asked. "No, I haven't," Asia replied, blushing. After school, when they all went to the orc clubroom, Middle arrived with Kaneko 2 minutes after Issei, Rainer and Asia arrived. "So any problems with your first day?" Rias asked the new female members of the orc. They all answered with a no. At that moment Kalwerner entered the room as well. "Is school just full of perverts and idiots?" she cursed. She was wearing a white dressed shirt covered by a light blue jacket with a matching skirt while wearing a lab coat. "I swear these boys just needs to be put out their misery," she said as she sat down. Rias had gotten new furniture to compensate the new members of her club. When everyone was in the room they began the introductions. Issei noticed even though Yudo and Akeno was smiling they were a bit reserved. Rias then asked them about their magical abilities. The four of them looked at Issei before replying. He just nodded his head to affirm that it was okay to tell them, and he started with his own. "Since I'm part dragon and devil, I can use elemental devil magic and dragon magic. I can also enhance my devil magic with my dragon magic," he told them. After he was finished, his four started speaking up. "Other than the light spears we can create, we also have individual elemental magic. I can use water-based magic," Kalwerner told them. "I use earth-based magic," Middle spoke up. "My element is wind," Rainer told them. I can only use my sacred gear to heal," Asia said in a worried tone, hoping she won't get scolded, but was surprised when Issei just patted her on her head. "That's okay, I can teach you how to use other types of magic," he told her. She just smiled at him. Rias pouted a little at when she heard Asia had the ability to heal. She wanted Asia to be her servant, knowing she'll be valuable during raiding games. During their conversations, Issei stood up and immediately looked out the window. "Is something wrong?" Isakeno asked. "We're being watched," he told them. Everyone, stunned at his accusation, wondered who could be watching them. When Issei arrived at the window he saw a type of bird he never saw before, but immediately teleported away in fire. "That's new to me," he said out loud. "Did you see who was watching us?" Yudo asked him. "That's just it," he started. "It was some type of bird." "What kind of bird?" Rias asked with worry in her tone. "Well, brown feathers on its underbelly, with black feathers on the back of its neck. It also had red feathered wings and head, but the feathers under the tail was white," he told them. "I see," Rias said with a downcast expression. "But do you know who owns it?" he asked her. "Don't worry about it, I'll handle it," she told him. "Okay if you say so," he said, noticing she was sad about something. The rest of the night went on as usual, but Rias was acting differently. Issei knew something was bothering here. Ever since he saw that bird spying on them, he felt it was connected to her somehow. As Rias' peerage was out making contracts, Issei brought an idea to her attention. "Hey Rias, I know I didn't acquire my peerage the official way, but I would like to help you out if you and your peerage ever get overwhelmed," he told her. "Thank you, I'll keep that in," Minch replied. At night, Issei was getting ready to sleep when he heard someone knocking on his door. He already knew who it was. "Yes, come in, it's open," he answered. Standing in the open door was Asia holding the stuffed toy he got her a few days ago. "Can I sleep with you? I've been having bad dreams about when I left the church," she told him. He just smiled. "Sure, come on in," he replied, opening his covers for her to get into. She smiled as she fell asleep next to him. During the night, Issei felt the rest of the girls coming into his bed one by one. The next morning, Issei awoke with 4 girls in his bed: Kalwerner and Asia on his left, Middleton, Rainer on his right. After breakfast they all went to school. The day went by slow, but during lunch Issei felt the same aura that was watching them earlier. He saw the bird on the same branch and trapped it in a barrier and brought it down to him. Unknown location, underworld. "Someone in her peerage caught my familiar. I didn't expect that," a blonde male said out loud. "Old research club. But I caught the bird that was watching us," Issei said as he entered the clubroom. Rias looked up and saw Issei with the bird in his barrier in front of him. "Issei, do you know what that is?" Issei looked at her with a maniacal grin and answered, "Tonight's dinner. Want to join us?" Rias was shocked when she heard this. "It's a familiar to the House of Phoenix. You can't eat it," she shrieked at him. "So you're not coming over for dinner tonight?" he asked. She just sit there and looked at him, not knowing what to say. I'm gonna skip the rest of school today. If this is a phoenix like the immortal bird, it's be tough to cook after he said that he teleported to the training room of his house and looked at the bird. Now how am I gonna kill you? He grinned, turning his own teeth into sharp canines. Underworld. The blonde looked through his familiar eyes and saw the young man who caught it and was planning to eat it. How dare he, does he not know who I am? Call the house Gremory. I want the date of the marriage moved up. With that he left the room. I do residence. Well, it seems I can't kill you and eat you, since it may cause Rias some problems, and that may cause problems for me, so I'll have to release you. After Issei released the familiar from its barrier, he watched as it disappeared and returned to wherever it came from. Back at the orc, Rias was looking out the window with a sad look on her face when a silvered-haired maid appeared from a magic circle. Grafia, why are you here? She asked. Grafia just looked at her with a smile. At night, Issei was in his room while the girls were doing their own thing. Calwerner was in the library, Rainer was in the training room helping Asia with magical barriers, Middlet was in the underground bath. He was about to leave his room to check on Asia's progress when he felt Rias trying to teleport through the barrier he put around his house. He lowered his barrier so she can teleport through. Issei, I need you to fulfill your repayment to me now, she said to him in a hurried tone. He looked at her before talking and noticed her body language was nervous and erratic. Sure, what can I do for you? He said. I need you to take my virginity, she told him. Issei looked at her knowing she wasn't acting like herself. Are you sure you want to do this? Once it's done it can't be undone, he told her. She shook her head with a yes. Issei then put the barrier back around his house. He laid her on the bed and started to undress her, slowly kissing her on the neck, one hand caressing her head while the other was removing her skirt. She laid on his bed with her shirt unbuttoned, her bra and panties showing. Issei took off his shirt and was hovering above her when he saw tears leaving her eyes. He then stopped and sat on the edge of his bed. Rias sat up quickly. What's wrong? Am I not to your standards? She asked with pain on her face. No, it's not that, I just feel that something is wrong that forced you to do this, he told her. It's just that my family won't listen to me. Issei stopped her and left the room for a few minutes. When he came back he was carrying a cup of warm vanilla-flavored black tea. Issei waited for her to calm down before speaking up. Now that you've calmed down, are you willing to tell me what's wrong? He asked her. Say, Ice, will you marry someone you didn't love? He looked at her with a confused look before answering her. No, I wouldn't, but the only thing I know about love is the story of my parents and what I've seen in movies and on the TV, he told her. Then can I tell you something? My family is forcing me to marry someone I despise. He's the heir to the Phoenix house. I see he's the one who was watching us. Then he mused. Rias nodded before continuing. Yes, I just came back from a family meeting and they want to move up the date for the marriage and they won't listen to me, she spoke sadly. So you thought if you lost your virginity they wouldn't go through with it? He asked her. If you want you can stay the night. She smiled. I thought you weren't interested in that. No, it's nothing like that, I just want you to relax and be comfortable. If it's not a problem. Issei was about to reply when he told her someone's trying to break through his barrier. Grafia was perplexed at how someone they didn't know can put up a barrier she couldn't get past and had to resort going through the front door. As she rang the doorbell she hoped that she wasn't too late to stop Rias. She knew who lived there and the peerage he obtained it. At first she thought it was just a weak devil, but she was shocked that she couldn't get through the barrier. Calwerner was surprised when she opened the door. She started walking backwards in fear of who she saw standing in the doorway. Good evening. My name is Grafia, Lucifuge, servant to the House of Gremory. I'm here on orders to retrieve Lady Rias Gremory. Calwerner was confused at the statement. As far as she knew Rias never came over and thought if she came over she must have teleported. I'll have to get Isama, she replied. No need, I'm right here, just invite her inside. I'm guessing we have things to talk about, he told her with Rias standing behind him. Grafia gave him a look over knowing he was more than he appeared to be as she entered the house. Kala, can you give us some privacy and tell the others not to disturb us? Calwerner looked at Issei before leaving. As they sat there and Grafia was the first to speak up. Please tell me that I wasn't too late, Lady Rias, she asked. If you're talking about me taking her purity I can affirm that it's still intact, he told her. Grafia looked at Rias for confirmation. It's true he didn't take me as much as I wanted him to. He was a complete gentleman to me. Grafia was relieved but never showed it, her face stoic and unmoved. That's good news. Now Lady Rias, we have to return. Your family is disappointed in you for suddenly leaving the meeting. If I didn't do something drastic they'll never listen to me. But there is different ways to go about this, Grafia stated. From that statement I can assume that someone from her family thought of another way, Issei asked. Yes, and since it appears you are now involved I'd like you to be there at her clubroom tomorrow morning, she told him. Issei lowered the barrier as Grafia prepared a magic circle to teleport out of the house. Before Rias stepped on the circle she gave Issei a hug and a kiss on his cheek. Thank you for listening to me, she whispered in his ear. Grafia, I would like a Keno to join us as well, she told her. Of course it's only proper for a queen to stand next to their king during times and meetings like this. After they left, his peerage came in with worried expressions, wondering what was wrong. "It seems I might be helping Rias with a problem," he told them. He then looked at Asia. "So how's the barrier magic coming along?" he asked her. "Ice, do you know who that maid was?" Caloriner asked. "She said she's the maid to the House of Gremory. She's known as the strongest queen and wife to Serzich's Lucifer, one of the current rulers for the devil," she told him. "That's why I sensed she was stronger than Rias," Issei said with an eyebrow beeped. "If you're worried that she might harm any of you, I'll never let that happen. Besides, it seems she wants me to help Rias with her problem." "What problem is that?" This time it was Asia who spoke up. "You'll find out tomorrow morning. We have to be in the clubroom earlier than usual," he told them. The next morning, Issei found himself with his girls in the clubroom before classes started. Rias and her peerage was already there along with Grafia. When everyone was seated, Grafia turned to Rias and started speaking. "Lady Rias, shall I inform them of the situation or shall you?" she inquired. "No, I shall tell them," Rias started. "Everyone, the truth is I'm in." Before she could finish, she saw Issei got in front of his 4 girls in a protective posture. Then a magic circle with a different house symbol appeared in the center of the room. "Phoenix," said with slight disgust in her voice. Flames come out from the magic circle and the room gets flowed with heat. "Hot. Sparks are burning my skin. There is a man inside the flames." When he swings his arm across to the side, the flames disappear. "It's been a while since I came to the humans' world," said the one standing there. He was wearing red suit casually. He didn't have a tie and his shirt is open till his chest. He looks like he's in his early 20s. He appeared to be trying to pull the rich bad boy look. The guy looks around the room and then smirks after finding Rias. "My lovely Rias, I came to see you," he said out loud. She just looked away with her eyes half closed, not paying any attention to him. "Now then, Rias, let's go and take a look at the ceremony hall. The date of the ceremony is decided, so we need to check it before then." The guy grabs Rias' arm. "Let go of me, Razor." Rias says that with a deep and serious voice while shaking the guy's hand off. The guy called Razor doesn't seem to care about having his hand shook off and is just smirking. "Excuse me, but you are being rude to our club president." "Actually, what's with that attitude towards a lady?" Issei said it clearly to him. He looks at me and starts backing away before speaking. "You're the one that caught my familiar and tried to kill it," he said, looking at Issei shocked. Everyone but Rias was surprised when they heard that. Then Rias spoke up. "Ice, you didn't cook that bird. It's a pity," she said with a sinister smile. "Nah, I just released it. I sensed you might get into more trouble if I did that," he told her. But the truth is he didn't want an investigation done on him. For an unknown to kill a familiar belonging to a pillar clan will raise some flags, and he was sure that some flags are already raised with the Diodora incident and the fact that he acquired his own peerage illegally. "Who are you to dare such a thing?" "Me, I'm no one important, but shouldn't you introduce yourself first?" I told him. "Oh my Rias, you never told him about me. I'm appalled you don't talk about me." "There was no need, as you are not important enough to bring up in a conversation," she jeered at him. His face contorted in anger as he looked at her before talking. "I am Razor Phoenix, pure-blooded high-class devil," he said as he looked around waiting for reaction from everyone before continuing. "And Ria's fiancé," he smiled after saying the last part. "Oh, is that all?" I told him. "Is that all you have to say to someone as great as me?" Razor boasted. "Razor-sama, if you could please sit down so we can continue," Grafia gestured. After they all sat down, Akeno brought out some tea and snacks for everyone. "Ah, the tea served by Ria's queen is always lovely," Razor told her. She just smiled and replied with a fake smile. "Thank you very much," with a hate in her tone. I wouldn't be surprised if she spat in his cup and separated it from the other teacups. Rias is sitting on the sofa. Razor carelessly sat next to her and is holding her shoulder. Rias keeps on shaking his hands off, but he keeps on touching her hair, hands and shoulders. Her and my servants are sitting away from the 2 high-class devils and can only look at them. I then started smiling. "You Ice, did something good happen?" Asia asks with a worried face. "No, I'm just thinking of ways to make him feel pain," I told her. "Stop it already," Ria's angry voice echoes through the room. When I look, Rias got up from the sofa and is glaring sharply at Razor. Razor, on the other hand, is smirking like usual. "Razor. I told you before I will not marry you." "Yeah, I heard that before, but Rias, that won't do. You know, I think the situation of your household is quite serious." "That's none of your concern. If I'm the next heiress for the House of Gremory, then I will choose who will become my husband. My father, brother, and everyone in the clan are trying to control my life," she yelled at him. "That's because your father and Serzich's Sama are worried. They are afraid that your household will become extinct. We lost a great number of pure-blood devils in the last war. Even if the war has ended our rivalry with the fallen angels, and God hasn't ended yet, it's not rare for the successors of pure-blood devil to get killed in the worthless battle against them. Which leads to the household becoming extinct. So for a pure-blood devil that also happens to be a high-class devil, getting together would be the obvious solution for the forces of devils. A pure-blood high-class devil. Even you know that these children will be important from now on." The newly produced devils, the ones like your servants, the reincarnated devils, are expanding in terms of strength, but that would make us, the high-class devils with old history background, lose our place. There are old nobles who gets close to the reincarnated devils because they are very powerful. Well, that might be alright. The newly produced devils are also important for our future. But we can't allow the pure-blood devils to go extinct, right? You and I were chosen in order to prevent the pure-bloods from going extinct. My house is safe because I have my older brothers. But there are only 2 siblings in your house. And your brother is someone who left the house. Then there would only be you, Rias, who can inherit the house of Gremory. If you don't take a husband, the house of Gremory will go extinct in your generation. Are you trying to crush your household that has been continuing for a very long time? Remember, we only have half the amount of pillars left after the Great War. This marriage has the future of the devils on the line, Razor stated. I'm not going to crush my house. And I am willing to take a husband. Listening Rias, Razor makes a big smile. Oh, to be expected from Rias. Then let's. But I won't marry you, Razor. I will marry the one I love. Even the devils from the old noble house have the right to choose. Rias talks over Razor and says it clearly. Hearing that, Razor suddenly becomes enraged. His eyes become sharper and he even makes a noise with his tongue. You know, Rias, I'm also a devil who carries the name of House of Phoenix behind me. I can't let that name get tarnished. I didn't even want to come to a small old building like this in the human world. Rather, I don't like the human world that much. The fire and wind of this world is filthy for a devil like me who rules fire and wind. I can't stand it. As he said that, he gathers flames around him. I will take you back to the underworld, even if I have to burn all of your servants. After hearing that, I immediately trapped him and his fire in a barrier. You claim to rule over wind and fire, when your fire won't even scratch my scales, I told him with a bit of hostility in my voice. Then I felt a cold aura filling the room. I look at the source. It was Graphia. I can tell she's stronger than Razor. I know you're friends with Lady Rias, but I must insist you release Razor Sama immediately, she told me in a harsh tone. I just sighed and complied. I raised a barrier in the air and released him and watched him fall on his face. You insolent whelp, I'll teach you to make a fool of me, he shouted. Razor Sama, please calm down. If both of you were to continue, then I won't be quiet about it. For Serzich's Sama's honor, I won't hold back. Graphia told us in a calm, authoritative tone. How can I calm down when this boy disrespected me? Trust me when I tell you he's stronger than he let on, she told him. Razor takes a step back and sat back down. To be told that by the strongest queen, but I wished to challenge him to verify this claim. I just looked at him with a sinister smile. I was thinking of proposing a battle for Rias, but he brought it up himself. I guess I leg him on more. Are you sure about that? You might not survive if I get serious, I told him. You think you can defeat me, I who have entered raiding games and is seen as a prodigy, he said boldly. Okay, how about a wager? What kind of wager? If I win, I along with my servants will pledge our loyalty to you and obey all orders that you give. After I said that, I pointed to my 4 servants behind me. He smiled pervertedly as he looked at each of them. I can tell what he's thinking. And if you win, what would you claim as a prize? If I win, Rias gets the freedom to marry anyone she chooses, I told him. Fine, but you'll have to fight me and my entire peerage. I accept these terms. Rias looked at me with worry. I can't ask you to do this. I turned to her. It's okay, let me repay you for all you have done for me. After I said that, Graphia intervened. Originally, the House of Gremory was allowing Rias to fight Razor for her right to deny this marriage, but if it's between the both of you, I'll have to inform the House of Gremory and the House of Phoenix, she told us. I see they would go that far knowing I would fail, she said with a downcast expression. Yes, Serzich's Sama figured it would be a last resort given your defiance to the marriage. I have to warn you though, I have a full peerage. Saying that, Razor clicks his fingers and the magic circle on the floor glows. The magic circle has the same emblem of Phoenix that Razor appeared from, then shadows appears from the magic circle. Well, these are my cute servants. Around Razor, who said that, 15 girls that seems to be his servants gathers around him. Razor walked over through his peerage and starts kissing one of the girls. Rias looks away uninterested. Next to me, Asia's face turned red as she looked away, while everyone else besides Graphia has a disgusted look on their faces. Don't worry girls, when I beat him you'll get your turn as well, he told them. I just sat there quietly before standing up to speak. I see you don't care for Rias at all, you just want her as a trophy. I'm a high-class devil, I can do whatever I want, he said to me. No, you're just a spoiled rich kid who needs to be taught a lesson, and I'll gladly teach it to you, I told him. He got angry at my statement. Mira, attack him, but don't injure him too bad. I want to make him suffer during our match. When he said that, a girl with a stick stepped forward and got into a battle stance. Rainer was about to get into a battle stance as well, but I stopped her. You should reserve your strength for the match. I don't like to bully girls, I told her. She then leaped at me with her stick aimed at my stomach. I immediately stepped into her attack path and grabbed her by the throat and grabbed the stick out of her hand. She flailed around trying to release herself from my grip. I then threw her at Razor's feet. Seems like this one needs more training, I told him. We watched her gasping for breath as two beast-like girls assisted her in standing up. No matter, you will meet your demise during our match. He talked as if he already won. Razor-sama, I suggest you return to the underworld and tend to your servant, Grafia told him. He then made his magic circle preparing to leave. He shot a fireball at me. I caught it with one hand and destroyed it. Like I said, your flames won't even scratch my scale, I told him mockingly. After he left, Grafia started speaking. I also have to return to the underworld and report this new development. She then looked between me and Rias. Lady Rias, I hope your friend is as strong as I think, he has said with a smile, before leaving in a magic circle as well. After she left, Rias hugged me right away. Ice, why would you do something like that? I know you're strong, but are you strong enough to defeat him? She asked with worry written all over her face. Yes, I can defeat him and his peerage. Trust me, I'll free you of this as my way to repay you. She smiled and gave me another kiss on the cheek. Issei and the other students decided to wait in the clubroom until Grafia returned from the underworld with news about the upcoming tournament. Kalwerner returned to the nurse's office to fulfill her duties as school nurse. They all sat in the room drinking tea prepared by Akeno and waited. Underworld. So how did it go? Did she accept the challenge? A middle-aged man with long crimson hair with a short beard asked Grafia upon her return. No, she did not, Lord Gremory. Razor challenged the unknown that is in her territory, she told him. You mean the dragon-devil hybrid that acquired his own peerage that we received a report about? Another crimson-haired man asked. Yes, IssiexHarem I. Is this unknown strong enough to defeat Razor? Another middle-aged man asked. He had long blonde hair. It might be Razor-sama, most challenging fight he ever had, and the unknown have to fight Razor-sama and his peerage alone, she said to them. I see, we wanted Rias to be the one to defeat him, but we feared she wasn't strong enough to defeat him, Lord Gremory stated, but this unknown might teach him a lesson if not defeat him. Grafia, you met the young man, what is your assessment of him, based on what you saw? Lord Phoenix asked. I'll have to say I think he's more than a devil-dragon hybrid. When went to retrieve Lady Rias, I couldn't penetrate the barrier around his house, she told. I think Lady Rias suspects he's hiding something more, but don't know what it is. I see, and there's also the report of this uncle that raised him and helped him create his peerage. Yes, we don't know who this dragon is. It might be Fafnir or Crom Crouch. Midgardsormr has been asleep before the Great War started and have not woke up, and Tiamat is in the familiar forest, Serziches said out loud. That may be true, so it's either an evil dragon or the golden dragon monarch, Lord Phoenix commented. What about you, Long? Lord Gremory asked. I spoke both him and Sun Wukong after I received the report about him. They both told me they have no knowledge of the young man, Serziches told them. By the way, what is his name? Lord Phoenix inquired. His name is Issei Haidu. If you like, I can send the information about him to your house, Lord Phoenix, Grafia said with a bow. I see, thank you, Grafia, and my house accept this change in the wager. How about you, Lord Gremory? We accept. Let's have them fight in 10 days, Lord Gremory suggested. There you have it, Grafia, you can tell him of the date for the match, Serziches told her, and with that she teleported away, leaving him with the two gentlemen. What do you think he's hiding? He asked of them. They looked at each other before looking at Serziches. I don't know, I just hope he can deliver. It's my daughter that he wagered, Lord Gremory stated. As long as he entertained me with this match, I don't really care for the outcome, Lord Phoenix said. Serziches just sat there with a smile on his face. What are you really, Issei Haidu, he thought to himself. Old school building. The members of the Orc was patiently waiting for Grafia to return while drinking tea and eating snacks offered by Akeno. It's been over 45 minutes since Grafia left. As they sat there, they saw a magic circle appeared, and from Grafia stood there stoic and calm as ever. The date for the match between Issei Haidu and Razor Phoenix-sama is in 10 days, she told them. Thank you, Grafia. Is there anything else? Rias asked her. No, that is all to report, she said with a bow before disappearing in another magic circle. I see, so I fight him in 10 days. That's too long, Issei said out loud. Ice, don't you need to train for the match? Akeno asked. Nah, I'll be fine. I know you're sure of yourself, but it's my life on the line. If you don't mind, I'd like this time to assess your skills, Rias told him. Sure, I can also use this time to train my peerage as well, he told them. Great, my family have a villa in the mountains that will be perfect little getaway for training, Rias said with a smile. But I have a training room in my house, we don't have to go to the mountains, he spoke up. Rias had a defeated look on her face. She wanted to take him to the mountains so she could get closer to him. Then she found an ally in his bishop as she spoke up. Ice, I would like, if we go training in the mountains, I would like to be outside during our training, Asia said while fiddling with her fingers. Do you all want to be in the mountains? He asked the others. They all nodded a yes. Fine, but there will be no teleportation, you will be carrying your own luggage and extra weights, he told them. They suddenly regretted their decision. After they finished their tea and snacks, they returned back to the rest of the classes they had that day. After school, Rias and her peerage used their familiars to send message to the clients they had in town that they will be away for a few days and will alert them upon their return. As Issei was walking home with Asia, Middleton Rainer in her uniform, they noticed Kaneko standing in front of a confectionery store with a sad look on her face. "Kaneko, what's wrong?" Middleton asked her. She looked at the group and answered with an emotional stare before answering. "I forgot my wallet in the clubroom," she told them. Then Issei spoke up and made his first mistake he ever made with Kaneko. "Kaneko, would you like me to buy the sweets that you like for Yao?" asked her. "You would do that for me, Issei-senpai?" "Yes, but only if you call me Ice," he told her. She nodded a reply before walking into the store. He then asked the other girls with him, "Would you all like something as well?" The girls just smiled and entered the store. Upon leaving Middleton, Asia and Rainer had a handful of candy and sweets, but Kaneko was for paper bags of sweets and candy weighing 20 pounds. He tried to fathom how can she eat so many sweets, but just before they went their separate ways she gave him one of her pocky boxes, accepted it with a smile, still wondering how long the sweets and snacks he bought for her will last. Werner had to stay after school for a staff meeting, but when she got home and heard when the battle would take place, she didn't have to worry for she trusted in Issei's strength. But what she was shocked about was the training trip they were taking and the fact that they will be walking to the mountains with their own luggage and weights. She just glared at her 3 female roommates for making this decision without her having any say in the matter, but in reality she didn't care where they trained, as long as Issei was training her to get stronger. That night they all packed for the trip they will be taking. In the morning after they finished packing, they all went into Issei's room when they thought he was asleep again. After breakfast the girls wondered why Issei was walking around the house taking pictures. "Ice, what are those pictures for?" Middleton asked. "My mother wanted pictures after the renovation was completed, so I'm gonna send her the pictures," he told her. After he finished they left the house to meet up with Rias and her peerage, so they all can go to the villa her family owns in the mountains. Issei could tell the difference in his peerage strength as they walked along a path up the mountain. Rainer and Middleton asked to be promoted to rooks so they could have the strength to carry their bags up the mountain. He denied that request, and now they were struggling to catch their breaths at the halfway mark. Even though Werner had the strength of a rook, she carried more weight than the 2 pawns. He had Asia practice her barrier magic by placing her luggage in a barrier and walk with it that way. Rias also had Yudo and Kaneko carry weights along with their luggage as well. When they arrived at the villa, Issei's peerage all fell on the ground, glad that they finally reached their destination. "Okay, after Rias assign us our rooms, change into your gym clothes and we'll start training in 30 minutes, he told his peerage. They looked at him with sad, downcast expressions. "Ice, you don't want them to rest for the night and start tomorrow?" Rias asked him. The 4 girls just looked at her, thankfully that someone had a voice of reason, but became sad again when Issei denied that idea. "No, I think 30 minutes is," Anna told her. Issei and Yudo shared a room and were currently in the middle when Yudo suddenly spoke to him while holding a shirt to his chest. "Hey Ice, please don't look." Issei just beeped an eyebrow when he answered him. "Hey Yudo, I know we don't know each other for a long time, but I'll let you know now that I don't swing that way." Yudo just smiled and continued getting dressed. She would be glad to know he prefers women, he thought to himself. Before I start the training for the 4 of you, Rias wanted to test my abilities, so we'll do that first." He then looked at Rias. "Whenever you're ready," he told her. Rias nodded before giving commands to her peerage. "Yudo, Kaneko, attack, don't hold back," she told her. Knight and rook. Kiba ran towards Issei and a sword started appearing in the palm of his hand, but before he got close to him, a boulder was already thrown towards Issei by Kaneko. He jumped in the air to avoid the boulder, and Yudo was there waiting for him, bringing the sword in a downward slash. The slash was stopped as Issei held Yudo's sword in between the palms of both his hands, then kicked Yudo in the stomach, pushing him back, and went to land on the ground. When he landed, he was met with a flurry of punches from Kaneko that he blocked with palms open. As her fist connected with his palm, she was looking for an opening, but never found one. Then Issei went on the counter-attack. He faked a left punch and went with a right hook. It didn't connect. He faked a straight punch to her face, but went for a low punch to her stomach. She was getting frustrated, falling for all his fake outs. She knew he was faster than her, but what got her angry is that he never connected any of his punches. As she was about to throw another punch, Issei stepped in and grabbed her by the arm and leg, did a quick spin, then threw her. Kiba saw that Issei was about to throw his teammate and decided this was a good opening. He silently rushed to Issei's back with his sword pointing straight. He was surprised when Issei bent backwards and saw a smile on Issei's face before he grabbed his sword hand and was brought into an overhead thrown and landed on his back. Issei then looked at Rias. "Well, then these two have great teamwork." Rias smiled while forming a red ball in the palm of her hand. "Indeed they do. Now it's time to fight me and Akeno," she said confidently. The Keno started out sending multiple lightning strikes at Issei. He dodged all of them by somersaulting backwards. Rias then started talking to Issei. "This is the power of destruction passed down to me from my mother. Prepare yourself," she said out loud. Issei stood there watching Rias' attack coming at him. He beeped his right hand back with his left hand out front and his legs bent in a battle stance. "Flame of the devouring dragon," he shouted. His right hand went forward, as if about to punch someone, releasing a flame the size of his head from his hand. Rias watched on as her attack collided with Issei's flame and saw the impossible. The flame was gaining in size as her attack was shrinking. Then the flame was about to hit Rias. She waited for the attack but only felt the heat as the flame dissipated around her. "Ice, what kind of attack was that?" she asked him. "It's a dragon attack that literally eats the opponent's magic," he told her. "Okay, I'm satisfied. I'll put my faith in you completely during your match." "Thank you," he said with a bow before turning to his peerage. "Now then, it's time for the four of you to start training," he said with a maniacal grin. This sent shivers down their spines. Issei started out with training middled, Rainer and Kalwerner with hand-to-hand combat. That training was pretty much one-sided as Issei had the upper hand the entire time. The only time they stopped was to get healed by Asia. Issei had asked Asia to create a barrier big enough for her and one other person to fit inside, and when someone entered the barrier, she has to do her best to heal that person without dropping the barrier. At first she couldn't heal someone within the barrier, but as the training went on she getting the hang of it. Rias was watching Issei train his peerage as she talked to her own. "Well Yudo, what did he say when you were alone with him?" she asked her knight. "He's definitely into women," she smiled upon hearing this. "And what of his fighting skill?" This time it was Kaneko who answered. "He is better and stronger than us. He was holding back so he wouldn't hurt us." "I agree, I just wish he'd let that flame devour me," Akeno said with a seductive smile. Kalwerner, middled, Asia and Rainer entered the villa tired and sore. Their spirits rose as the smell of dinner entered their nose. Rias and Akeno had prepared dinner for everyone that night, and the girls were glad. They never felt so exhausted before as they sat at the dining table. For the meal, Issei thought it was funny that they were eating turkey that night. During dinner, Rias started talking about taking the bath. "Good thing we have a huge outdoor bath that we all can't fit in." She then looked at Issei. "I don't mind if you join in, and I'm sure all the girls here will be happy to share a bath with you," she told him. All the girls answered one by one. "I don't mind," Kaneko said. "I can wash his back," Akeno told them. "I never took a bath with a boy, please take care of me," Asia answered with a blush. "I can wash his chest," Kalwerner said with a smile. "Then I'll wash his member," Rainer shouted. "I don't have anything to wash," Middle said with a sad tone in her voice. Rias was slightly shocked at the responses she got for suggesting that Issei take a bath with her and the other girls. She never expected this sort of outcome. The most she expected was a simple yes from them. Issei just smiled and told them he'll be taking a bath alone. His four became a little sad as they heard this. Rias was sad as well as she thought it was a great opportunity to get close to him. The next day, Issei was training his peerage to enhance their magic stamina. His reason for doing this was to reduce their magic consumption during a battle. He also told them if they increase their magic stamina, that will also help them increase the amount of wings they have. The training consisted of them constantly depleting their magic reserve by throwing light spears at Asia's barrier. As this went on, Rias and her peerage were also training. Yudo was running around the villa with weights attached to his legs to increase his speed. Kaneko was in the forest behind the villa doing her own training. Akeno was also increasing her magic stamina by shooting lightning bolts at the ground. Rias was trying to refine her power of destruction. The third day of training, Issei had his peerage running around the villa with weights attached. Rias came up to him and asked if he could give her some pointers or help her train her own peerage. He told that Yudo needs to work on his defense and not just work on his speed. Even though he's fast, a well-placed attack can slow him down and injure if not kill him. He then told her that Kaneko has to work on her speed and not only strength and defense. As for Akeno, he told her that during the fight with the stray, he only saw her using the bishop attribute, and if she's not using the other attributes of the queen piece, then she needs to. Rias thanked him and was about to walk away before Issei stopped her by asking her something that shocked her. "Rias, about Kaneko and Akeno, why are they suppressing their true nature?" he asked her. Rias was shocked that he could tell. "How did you know?" she asked him. "I sensed they were more than devils the first time I met them after my seal was broken, along with the other one you have locked away in that room," he told her. "I see you're part dragon, so I guess you can sense those around you, but the reason is they all had a terrible past and I just want them to overcome it so can be happier." "Well, if they have their reasons, I won't pursue." Rias smiled as she heard him say that. "Ice, how did you deal with being mixed with a different race?" "Well, it never bothered me. My father died in the Great War and my mother had to leave me alone with my uncle. She feared if her associates found out what I was they'd kill me, but she died in the Great War as well, and my uncle raised me until I was strong enough to take care of myself," he told her. "But a dragon-devil hybrid isn't something that will get you killed." It's not that I'm more than a dragon-devil hybrid, it's the third part of me that will get me killed. She was stunned at the new information she received. When you feel comfortable and trust me enough to tell me what you really are, I'll be ready to listen, she said to him. He smiled as he watched Rias walked away, and he went back to watching his peerage run laps around the villa. That night Issei was taking a bath when he felt someone else entering the bath. "I'm in here," he shouted. "I know, that's why I'm coming," and Rias replied. Issei couldn't help but notice her figure as she entered the bath with a towel covering her front. She sat at the other end of the bath away from him. "Issei, I just wanted to thank you for helping me through this time of crisis, and also for the tips you gave me on training my peerage," she said to him. "If you don't mind, I like to wash your back for you," she said seductively. He already knew she would find a way to get what she wants, and he didn't want to argue, so he let her wash his back. The rest of the bath was quiet. When the other girls found out that they bath had taken some were upset that they didn't get to take a bath with him, and only 2 were neutral. The 4th day of training, Issei was concentrating on helping his peerage with their fire draconian abilities. He was currently teaching them to be more fire resistant by having their dragon wing out, and imagine that their entire body was covered in with thick scales. He was slowly breathing fire at them in intervals. For the entire morning none of them got a grasp of this ability, but after lunch Kalornar was the first, then middled. Raynor got the grasp of the ability before they stopped for dinner. Asia was a bit sad that she didn't get it, but cheered up when Issei told her that after the match, he'll teach her everything she don't understand alone in the training room at his house. The 5th day was another day for them to increase their magic stamina. Issei had planned to increase their light-based magic volatility, but decided to do that when they were in the training room of his house. That night he found himself walking around the villa as everyone but one person asleep. He went straight to that person to have a conversation with her. He found her out on the back veranda. "Hello Rias, can we talk for a bit?" She was sitting at a small round glass table looking at the moon. "Sure, have a seat, join me," she replied. Issei then sit opposite of Rias with a table between them. Rias is wearing a red negligee with her crimson hair tied into one. He then starts talking to her. "Rias, why do you hate Razor?" "No, it's more like why are you against this marriage?" Rias sighs a question. Certainly Razor seems like a scum and is quite the womanizer, but she can't reject this arrangement if he thinks about Rias' house problem. "I'm a Grimoire." "Well, that I already know." "No, I didn't reintroduce myself. I'm a devil from the house of Grimoire, and that name will follow me to wherever I go." "You hate it?" "I feel proud of my family name, however, this is also something that is a burden to me. Everyone looks at me as Rias from the Grimoire. I can't have them look at me simply as Rias. That's why I'm enjoying my life in the human world. They don't know about the Grimoire, the devil. Everyone looks at me as who I am. I really like that feeling. I never felt something like this in the devil society. And I never will now on as well. The only time I can enjoy my life as myself is when I'm in the human world." She has a sad, distant look in her eyes. "I want to be with someone who will love me as Rias without the fact that I'm a Grimoire. That's the small dream I have. Unfortunately, Razor only looks at me as Rias from the Grimoire, and he loves me as Rias from the Grimoire. That's why I hate it, but still, the pride of being a Grimoire is very important. My feelings may be complicated, but I want to cherish this small dream I have." "So you just want to be loved as Rias and not as Rias Grimoire. I can understand why you're against this decision. I don't know anything about Grimoire or about the devil's world, but to me Rias is Rias, an overly eager girl who just wants to be happy," Issei said with a smile. She smiled at him from across the table. "Hey Rias, is there any way I can get videos of his fight so I can view them?" "Yes, I can have them delivered tomorrow morning." "Thank you, I'm going to bed now." "Ice, thank you for talking to me, I feel better now." "You're welcome," and with that Issei went to bed leaving Rias behind. During breakfast on the 6th day Rias had informed Issei that the tapes of Razor's fight had arrived. Issei told his peerage to do their run around the villa until noon while he watches the recordings of Razor's fights. Rias also instructed her peerage to train on their own and went to watch the recordings. Issei realized that Razor just lets his pieces run around until they get defeated before overwhelming his opponents, defeating them all alone and claiming victory. He then saw the girl that attacked him in the clue room. "Her name is Mira, she's his newest pawn," Rias told him while looking at a stack of paper with glasses on. "Rias, I thought devils had perfect eyesight." "Oh, these were just for show, they help me think," she told him. Issei just nodded as he continued looking at the recordings. He saw the other pawns, 2 catgirls wearing a short sailor shirt that only covered half of their breast. Both wore fingerless gloves that matched the color of their hair. 2 of his pawns were dressed as maids, and another dressed as a belly dancer. He had another pair of pawns that both ran around with chainsaws. Issei thought that it was a unique weapon to fight with. The rest of his pawns' names are Nai, Li, Marian, Burant, Sharia, Ilan, Rias told him. Next was a tall young woman with long black hair with a dark blue tint and brown eyes. She wore a white top with black accents that is modeled after a Chinese cheongsam, red shorts, and armored knee-high boots with matching gauntlets. The top features a diamond shape on the chest area. Issei liked the fact that she had some defense and didn't rely on her speed alone. Her weapon is a giant swayhander she used very effectively. It has a black blade with silver edges and has a black hilt with a red handle. The other female who stands beside her is a young woman with light brown hair and green eyes. Her outfit consists of a full set of silver armor with black accents that appears to be a cross between a European knight's chest plate, gauntlets and greaves, and a Japanese samurai hip plates and shoulder guards, and wears a headband that goes across her hair and forehead. She is equipped with a broadsword and a dagger, both of which are held with brown belts slung across her hip. The broadsword is slung on her left hip and features a red jewel on the pommel and has bandages across the handle for grip. The dagger, which is located behind her hip, features a gold hilt with bandages on the handle. Those two are his knights Rias and Carlem, and Rias spoke up. They continue watching they match. Those are his rooks Isabella and Shulin, she told him, looking at two women. One had a mask covering half of her face and the other wore a blue cheongsam outfit. Is that another phoenix in his peerage? Issei asked, looking at a girl with blonde drill curls wearing purple dress. Yes, that's his sister, one of his bishops Ravel Phoenix, along with his other bishop Mehi. And finally his queen Ubeluna, also known as the bomb queen Rias, stated, looking at the older busty female with long wavy purple hair, with matching eyes. As the match went on, he saw that he sacrificed his pawns like they were nothing. His other pieces put up a good fight. Issei also noticed that he makes his opponent feel like they're at an advantage before crushing them completely. After they finished watching the recordings, Issei went to his peerage and told them that their training is over for that day, and on the next day, they'll all fight him as well. He also asked Rias if she and her peerage can join the fight, to which she agreed. It was the 7th day and Issei's peerage along with Rias and her peerage were in battle stances facing Issei, who was also in a battle stance. They all stood there not wanting to make a move, but Udo was the first to attack. He went straight for Issei with sword in hand. Issei was about to deliver an uppercut to when Udo immediately changed direction and went left. Issei was looking at his movements when a barrier created by Asia covered him. He looked through the barrier and saw Kaneko and Kalwarner ready to attack at the same time. When Asia dropped the barrier around him, a flurry of kicks and punches assaulted him. He smiled at the two rooks that bombarded him. He was blocking them with precision. Then Kalwarner jumped back and threw a light spear at his feet. Kaneko saw this and jumped out of the way. Udo saw that Issei jumped backwards away from the exploding light spear and used this as his time to attack. Issei landed and ducked before Udo's sword connected with his head. Issei then proceeded to sweep Udo's leg. Udo fell on his back and did a backflip as he saw a fist coming straight at him. Right after missing the punch to Udo, Issei started moving left and right, dodging lightning strikes from Akeno and the power of destruction fired by Rias. He was about to jump into the air when he felt his feet trapped. He looked down and saw his feet partially buried in the ground. He looked at the source and saw Middle using her earth magic to trap him. Kalwarner and Rainer used this opportunity to combine their wind and water magic to attack Issei with a whirlwind of wind and water. After Issei broke out of the trap, he used his fireball to defuse the whirlwind. He then sent his dragon inferno towards them. Asia placed a barrier around them and then started the healing process. Issei was proud that his peerage was using their training in the sparring. Issei decided to end this mock battle without injuring them too harshly. Vortex flames, as he said that a whirlwind of flames left the palm of his and headed straight towards Rias and her peerage, along with Issei's peerage. They all watched as a flaming whirlwind headed straight towards them and growing bigger as it got closer. They felt the heat all around them as they got swept up in Issei's attack. Suddenly they were falling to the ground. As they all landed, they looked up and saw Issei staring down at them. "Well done, you all improved greatly," he told them. When they stood up, Asia began healing them. After they all healed up and rested, they were now having dinner. "I think we've done all the training we can," Rias spoke up during dinner. "Yes, everyone improved greatly," Issei replied. "We can return tomorrow since we don't have anything else to do." Yes, everyone agreed with Rias. That night everyone teleported back to their various homes. It was the 2 days before the match and Issei, Rainer, Kalwarner, Middle, and Asia was currently walking to school an hour before other students. The only students at the school were students who had club activities early in the morning. They entered the orc clubroom and was greeted to a warm cup of tea offered by Akeno. Kaneko was eating snacks out of one of the bags Issei bought her. Udo, like usual, was standing at the window. As the school day started, they all went to their classes and Kalwarner went to the nurse's office. "Hey Asia, how was the trip with your club? Did you make any progress?" a girl with glasses and long braided brown hair asked while adjusting her glasses on her face. The other students were listening to hear what happened during the time the orc was away. "Ika, yes, we all had fun. Well, I'll tell you something we Japanese call skinship," Ika told her before whispering the rest of the conversation in her ear. The other girls went to Yuma, who wasn't oblivious to what they were trying to get Asia to reveal. "Yuma, did anything interesting happen with Haidu or Kiba during your trip?" one of her classmates asked. She put on a sinister grin before talking to the girls that gathered around her desk. Well, Yudo and Issei shared a room, so I don't know what they did when they were alone at night. The girls started imagining a relationship between Issei and Yudo, wondering who was the pitcher and who was the catcher. The boys were smiling in and hoping that they were both gay, leaving more chances for them to get a girlfriend at the school. Then Yuma added more oil to the fire. Also, Rias took a bath with Issei and washed his back. Everyone was shocked and surprised when they heard that, but the perverted duo anger went up a notch. "I can't believe you took all the girls in the orc away just to sex them up," Mitsuda yelled at him. "Yeah, we just hope that you and Kiba are really gay for each other," Motohama sneered. Issei just ignored them and waited for the teacher to arrive, and the day continued on uneventful. The Cult Research Club. It was the night of the match, and Issei was sitting in the clubroom with everyone else. He was wearing a pair of blue jeans with a red t-shirt and a black leather jacket with a dragon motif on the back, with black boots. He also brought a second set of clothes which everyone was curious about. Udo had offered a sword to him, but he refused and said he preferred hand-to-hand, other than using a sword. It was 5 minutes before midnight when Grafia appeared in the clubroom. "Issei, hi, you are ready for your battle?" she asked him. "Yes, whenever you're ready. Before we depart, I have to tell you that this match will be viewed by both houses. Serzich's Lucifer will also be watching." "My brother will be watching," Rias shouted. "I see he wants to see fight that will determine my fate," she said solemnly. "Step onto this magic circle, and it will take you directly to the battlefield," she said, while pointing towards a magic circle next to her. After Issei emerged from Grafia's magic circle, he looked around and saw he was alone in the clubroom. Before he could say anything, he heard Grafia's voice over what sounded like a loudspeaker. "Hello everyone, I am Grafia, a maid from the House of Gremory, and today I will be the arbiter of the rating match between the House of Gremory and the House of Phoenix. In the name of my master Serzich's Lucifer, I will be keeping my eye on this match. By using both Rias-sama and Razor-sama's opinion, we created this battlefield which is a replica of the school, Kuo Academy, which Rias-sama attends to in the human world. Just like the matches I viewed of him, he's trying to give me an advantage, then try to completely crush me. That will be his downfall," Issei thought to himself. Issei looked out the window and saw that he was in a devil-made dimension. The location where both teams were transported will be their base. Issei Haidu base would be the Occult Research Cub's clubroom, located in the old school building. Razor-sama's base would be the student council's room located in the new building. For the pawns to use promotion, please head to the enemy's base to do it. I guess his pawns will promote if they get into this building. Now it's the time for the commencement of the battle. Also, this match will continue till dawn in the humans' time, so game starts now. Ring ring. The school bell rings. This is the ring to signify the start of the match. "Looks like this, my first rating game, time to rampage." Issei looked out his window and sensed 3 devils getting close to his base. He jumped out the window and met them in the woods close to his base. He looked at them and saw his 3 pawns, Marion, Burant and Sharia. The pawns flinch when he suddenly appeared in front of them. "Can you girls of Razor's Peerage quit? I don't want to hit any of you," he asked them. "Sorry, we cannot fail Razor-sama, but if you quit and become Razor-sama's servant, we'll be sure to pleasure you," Sharia told him. "No can do," Issei said, shrugging his shoulders. He then went for Burant. When he got within her reach, he did a front flip kick, knocking her in the air. He then jumped up, grabbed her by her feet, then threw her at Marion, knocking both of them on the ground, went for Sharia with a flying kick. As they were getting up, he was leaving the area and dropped a fireball in the middle of them. The 3 pawns just look at the fireball before it exploded. Razor-sama 3 pawns retired, Issei heard as he headed to the gym, where he sensed 4 more of Razor's Peerage. As he entered the gymnasium, the light slowly came on, and Issei saw Mira, Isle, Nell and Shulin standing there waiting for him. "Not bad defeating the first 3, but I would regain the disgrace you gave me when we first met," Mira told him, pointing her staff at him. "I guess we have to do this the hard way," he said, as he pounded his right fist into his left palm. When he said that, Isle and Nell rushed at him. "Chop chop time," they yelled with chainsaws aimed at him. What they saw shocked all of them. He took of the jacket he was wearing and threw it on the ground. Then his lower arm started to turn into an arm that resembled a dragon. It was crimson in nature and with 3 black spikes running along the forearms. He grabbed both chainsaws in each hand and threw the girl's back. He then headed towards Shulin and grabbed her by the throat and brought his knee into her stomach. He then jumped back as Mira brought her staff in a downward motion, trying to get a hit on him. She began twirling her staff around her body and then her neck, trying to hit him in the head. He grabbed the staff and broke it in half, throwing the half he had in his hand towards Shulin's head, knocking her out. Mira discarded her broken staff and started using hand-to-hand combat on him. As he was blocking her attacks, Isle and Nell came at him from the behind. Mira saw Issei smile and dodged to his right. "Vortex flame," he shouted as whirlwind of flames rampaged around the gymnasium. Issei watched his attack toss the 4 devil girls around, destroying the gymnasium in the process. Issei walked out the gym as it started to fall apart slowly. Razor Sama 3 pawns, 1 rook retired. He then looked up and saw Ubaluna preparing an attack. He flew up in the air in front of her. "What are you doing away from your king?" he asked her. "I was gonna hit you with a surprise attack as you walked away from your small victory," she said with a smile. Then she pointed her staff at Issei, and an explosion was heard. She smiled as she thought she destroyed her prey, but was surprised when she didn't hear that he was retired. As the smoke cleared, she looked on in shock as Issei stood in front her with his arms on fire. He rushed at her with a fire-fisted uppercut across her chest. She then looked down and saw the injury. She took out a small vial and poured what appeared to be water on the wound. "This is Phoenix Tears. With this Razor Sama's peerage can heal from any wound or injury. We don't have the regeneration ability like our king, but this is the second best thing," she told him. "I see," Issei said before punching her straight in the stomach, leaving a smoking wound where he punched her. She looked down with fear in her eyes as she started to fade away before calling out Razor's name. Razor Sama Queen retired. Guo Academy. Rias and her peerage along with the girls from Issei's peerage were currently watching the match between Issei and Razor, along with Sona and her queen Tsubaki. They all looked on at the skill he displayed during the match. Rias was on the edge of her seat when he went face to face with the bomb queen, but sighed a breath of relief when he came out of her attack unharmed and smiled along with his peerage, who was watching in awe at the display of power their master showed. Underworld. Lord and Lady Gremory along with Lord and Lady Phoenix was also watching the match, and sitting in a seat behind them were 2 leaders of Devil Society, Serzich's Lucifer and Ajuka Beelzebub. Ajuka was watching the match at the request of Serzich's. "So Ajuka, have you figured out what he really is?" Serzich's asked his friend. "Yes, I've been beepizing him since he stepped onto the game field," he replied to Serzich's. "Care to tell us what he really is?" "I have my suspicions, but I wanted you to confirm it." "I do, but it will be more surprising to the 3 factions when and if you reveal his full identity," Ajuka told them with a devilish smirk. "Well, he is indeed very powerful, and your daughter has allied herself with a powerful friend, Lord Gremory," Lord Phoenix said out loud. "Thank you for your compliment. I just hope he can deliver what he promised our daughter," Lady Gremory replied. Back at the match. Issei was currently walking towards the track and field towards the remaining members of Razor's peerage. As he came upon their location, he heard a voice of young girl that he recognized as Razor's sister turned bishop. "You did well getting here, you even defeated Ubaluna. I'll have to ask her how did she lose against someone like you, but I'm afraid this is where you will fall," she teased. "She got defeated because I'm stronger than her." When he said that, Nai and Lee started assaulting him with hand-to-hand combat. He wanted nothing more to end this match quickly. Just as he was about to punch Lee, Mihi interrupted with a magic attack. Issei smiled and threw a fireball at her, telling her to catch. Mihi didn't catch the fireball, she just let it drop at her feet. Thinking it was nothing more than a distraction, she was about to move from the fireball and resume her attack when it exploded, retiring her from the match. Razor Sama 1 bishop retired. The remaining girls were surprised. They never seen an attack like that, not even from their bomb queen, Nai, and Lee resumed their attack on Issei. He blocked a punch and grabbed Nai, holding her from behind. Lee was still in the middle of her attack and didn't stop the punch she was sending towards Issei. Issei placed Nai in the path of her sister's punch, which knocked her out. Lee couldn't believe she just knocked out her sister. Caught up in despair, didn't see when Issei got behind her and chopped her in the back of her neck, knocking her out as well. Razor Sama 2 pawns retired. The knights looked on as Issei defeated their fellow devil companions, readying their swords for battle. "I wanted to cross swords with the knight of Rias Gremory, but it looks like I will be satisfied with a battle against you. I only wish you had a sword so we can have a proper duel," Carloman told him as she drew her sword. "Don't worry, you'll fall at the blade of a sword, you have my word on that," Issei told her. "And here I thought only knights talked about swords, now this gnome talks about them as well. Hurry and defeat him so my brother can have his bride and he can be my plaything," Ravel shouted. The knights began encircling around Issei as he took a battle stance in between them. Cirrus came dashing in, bringing her sword in an upward slash at his feet. Issei jumped backwards and Carloman was waiting for him to land. She had her sword at the ready above her shoulders. When she moved her sword to attack, Issei used the palm of his hand to push of the sword and landing behind her, stealing her dagger in the process. "How dare you take my dagger, you shall pay for that, you fiend," she shouted at him. Issei used the stolen dagger to block the sword attacks. When Cirrus came in for the attack, he sidestepped and stabbed her in the abdomen. Razor Sama 1 knight retire. Carloman was now weary of her opponent. She didn't dare make the wrong move. Issei saw that she was stalling, not daring to attack, so he made the move. Carloman saw him coming straight at her. She then enveloped her sword with fire, preparing for his attack. She saw the blade coming towards his chest. She put up her sword to guard her chest. Issei just grabbed her hands, headbutted her and kneed her in the stomach. Her sword dropped as she fell on her knees, holding her stomach in pain. Issei picked up her sword before teasing her. "I told you you'll be defeated with a sword. You'll defeat me using my own blade, that will be a dishonor on my name of a knight," she said while glaring at him. "Then retire," he told her. Fine, I retire. Razor-sama one night retire. Issei dropped the sword and started walking toward the last two of Razor's peerage. Lady Ravel stand behind me, Isabella told her. Isabella stood in front of Ravel preparing to fight Issei. Ravel was surprised when she saw Isabella dropped on the ground and disappeared in a white light. Razor-sama retires. Ravel started to walk backwards out of fear. Don't worry, I can tell you can't defeat me, don't get in my way, and I won't hurt you, he told her. She nodded as she watched him past her to meet her brother in the final fight. Razor stood atop the new school building waiting with raging fist of fire. How can one man defeat my entire peerage? I will crush him and watch as I make his servants my own along with my new bride, he told himself waiting for Issei to arrive. Issei looked and watched as his opponent was flaring him in anger. So the one that is trying to usurp my claim on Rias has made it this far, Razor said, speaking with disgust in his tone. Yeah, I'm just repaying all that she has done for me, and since it's obvious she don't like you, I'll help her regain the right to choose the one she wants to marry, Issei told him with an emotionless expression. Razor's flames flared even more in anger as he started throwing fire magic at him, but saw his attacks not having any effect on him. Didn't I tell you that your flames won't scratch my scales? I see you're a dragon immune to flames, then I will defeat you by beating you to pulp. Razor, do you know how to defeat the immortal phoenix bird? Issei asked. Razor just raised an eyebrow, wondering where he's going with this topic. There are two ways you can defeat it, one is to beat it down with incredible power, and the other one is to keep on taking him down until its mind crushes, he told Razor, while getting in a battle stance. The first method requires the strength of a god class, the second one is to save our stamina until the mind is crushed, even if his body is immortal where he can resurrect his body many times. His mind isn't immortal. Razor took a step back upon hearing that, and since I don't want to waste time fighting until you get tired, I'll go with the first option. Razor knew that what he said was right, and only the Satan-class devils had that amount of power. You think just cause you defeated my peerage a dragon like you can defeat an immortal, he shouted with a triumphant voice. Issei immediately went to punched him in the face. Razor didn't even see him move, but felt the fist knocking him in the air backwards. Razor then saw Issei over his floating body and gave him a wink before punching him in the gut, sending him through the roof of the building, destroying it. Ravel looked on. She never saw anyone beat her brother so bad. She was both amazed and frightened, not knowing whether to help her brother or stay away from the dragon hybrid. Razor shot up from the rubble of the partially destroyed roof as flames starting healing his wounds. He released his wings of fire and started moving towards Issei. Issei went within his reach and gave him an uppercut. Issei then grabbed his feet and threw him down at the sports court. Razor felt blood trickling down his face and saw Issei walking towards the crater he was in. I don't understand, why are you helping her? If you want help with anything, retire, and I'll help you with anything. I'll even take back my claim on making you and your servants part of the wager, he told him. I'll even give you anything you want, women power, anything. You really think I want anything from you? Issei stated as he walked towards Razor. I told you that I'll defeat you with god-class power. After Issei said that he showed only his devil and dragon wings, 9-1 each side. Razor never saw that amount wings on anyone before. He knew he was outclassed and still put on a brave front. Retire, Razor, save what little pride you have left. I don't want to completely destroy you, he shouted at Issei. Razor flew at Issei trying to land a punch or a kick on him. Issei blocked all of them and gave him a kick in the stomach, sending him to his knees in pain. Why do so much just to repay a simple deal made between you and her? Razor yelled, slamming a fist in the ground. Because of my father, he started with a forlorn look on his face. My father died from a light spear protecting Lady Gremory during the Great War, and if Lady Gremory had died then Rias wouldn't have been born, so I will protect her and her happiness the way my father protected her mother. My name is Issei Vashtanari, son of Marikai Vashtanari, a low-born servant to the house of Gremory, he told Razor. Underworld. The ones watching the match was in shock and surprised as they heard Issei's claim, but no one was more surprised as Lady Gremory. I was told he didn't have any children, and the only one left alive was his mother, Lady Gremory said in a shocked tone. You mean the one we gave a mansion and servants in our territory as gratitude for what her son did? Lord Gremory asked his wife. Yes, but she said he didn't have any children, and the only one of their bloodline left is her and her granddaughter. She will be surprised to learn that she also has a grandson, Serziches told them, looking at the match. Yes, and a powerful one at that, Lord Gremory stated. The match. Razor couldn't believe what he heard. His opponent has the blood of a low-born devil. He thought he was getting defeated by someone of high class, but he was stunned when he heard that he was a low-born. You told me to save what little pride I have. My pride will not let me lose. My pride will let me have Rias, and my pride will show you that I'm more powerful than you, he started shouting. I am Razor Phoenix from the House of Phoenix that control the fire and wind. You claim my fire can't scratch your scales. How about the hellfire of the Phoenix clan? He raged as he emitted a yellow-orange flame from his body. Issei sighed as he heard Razor's rant. His body then started to glow in a crimson hue, his skin started to cover itself in crimson scales, his body began to grow in size. After the glow disappeared, what stood in front of Razor was a 25-meter tall dragon staring at Razor. "Last chance, Razor, retire," Issei growled at him. "Never," Razor shouted, getting ready to attack him with his flaming fist. "Dragon's roar," Issei bellowed while sending a powerful roar at Razor, sending him in the air and spinning out of balance. Issei grabbed his foot in between his teeth, he tossed about in between his teeth and spit him onto the ground. Razor was struggling to get on his feet, his regeneration wasn't acting as fast as it normally would, he had cuts and was bleeding all over, his body broken, his mind held fear of the dragon that stood in front of him. He was losing consciousness, he saw the dragon open its mouth at him, but then someone stood in front of him. Serafall stood in front of Issei in his dragon form with her arms outstretched, trying to stop Issei from devouring her brother. "Please, my brother can't fight anymore, don't hurt him anymore, you win, we retire," she said with fear and tears in her eyes. Issei saw her protecting her fire and started to evolve from his dragon form to his human form as he walked towards Serafall and Razor. Serafall saw him getting smaller and smaller until he stood in front of her in his human form. The fear and tears left her face as she was blushing and closed her eyes as Issei stood in front of her naked. "Well, you guys heard her, do I win or do I have to destroy Razor?" he shouted at the sky, then heard Graphia's voice ending the match. "The House of Phoenix forfeit this match, IssiexHarem is the winner." The battlefield was slowly disappearing around them as they were teleported out. Issei stood in front of his peerage, along with Rias and her peerage and Sona and Tsubaki, when he arrived back at the Orc Clubroom. All the girls were blushing as they saw Issei standing there naked. Rias was the only one who looked like she was about to drool. They all fell out of their stupor when he spoke up. "And I have the extra clothes I brought, that dragon form always tear up the clothes I wear," he stated. Asia was the one that brought his clothes to him. While blushing and trying to avoid looking at his body, Issei took the clothes from her and used one of the rooms behind Ria's desk to change. Issei came out the room in the extra clothes he brought. Soon as he closed the door, Rias jumped on him, giving him a hug. "Issei, I don't know what to say to thank you," she smiled with tears in her eyes, holding on to him. "I can't believe how strong and big Issei is," Akeno said, licking her fingers. "Seeing you fight, I wanted you to handle me the way you handle those girls," she told him sadistically. Issei just smiled at her comment. They were all talking about Issei's fight with Razor, and Rias asked him about what he said during the battle. "Is what you said during the battle about your father true?" she asked him. "Yes, my father died while protecting your mother. I'm sure my mother and father would like to meet you." "That's fine, whenever they're ready they can meet me at my house," he told her, smiling. "It's been a long night, how about we call it a night?" Underworld. "The bad about this marriage, I guess our greed got the better of us. To think my daughter had a friend like him to fight for her." Lord Gremory stood on a balcony talking to Lord Phoenix. "Yes, we both already have heirs to our name, we just wanted to see a child born with the power of destruction and the powers of Phoenix," Lord Phoenix told him. Indeed, even if his father was a low-born servant, to think his child was that powerful. "Does the boy have any living relative?" "Yes, a grandmother and cousin living in a mansion my wife gave them." "I'm guessing they don't know about him." "No, my wife will be informing them tomorrow." Lord Gremory paused before continuing. "To think my daughter has fallen for a dragon." "Your daughter isn't the only one who fell for a dragon, I can tell my daughter was infatuated with him as well," Lord Phoenix told him. "Well, you know what they say about a dragon's attraction," Lord Gremory stated. "Yes, but the question is, will he attract good luck or bad luck?" Lord Phoenix said, taking a sip of wine from his glass. End of the here. So that's it for today's video, guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.